Today we have a great double review, two that I've gotten a lot of questions about. The last bookers of the year named the Storyteller batch, and then Dixon Deadman's latest release in the 2XO series named Gem of Kentucky. Let's dive into both on a Double Dip Wednesday on the Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I'm Jason C from the Mash and Drum. Welcome back to the show. Like, subscribe, help grow the channel for 2023. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming back. Hit the like button below while you're here, guys. So this batch is named after the way Booker No could turn just about anything he talked about into an interesting story. Back in 1992, Booker No introduced the world to small batch bourbon. He actually coined the term small batch back in the day at a time when single barrel offerings like Blanton's were starting to take off and gain a lot of steam. Now, according to the info card included in every batch, Booker's Storyteller batch is made up of barrels from 4 production dates that were aged in 4 different warehouses. So 26% came from the 6th floor of a 7-story warehouse Z, 14% came from 6th floor of 9-story warehouse H, 25% came from the 5th floor of 9-story warehouse G, and 35% came from the 5th floor of 7-story warehouse 3. Now, the youngest bourbon in the blend comes in at 7 years, 2 months, and 29 days old. It's bottled at 127.8 proof with a price of about $100 these days. Again, the info card that comes with this batch is a nice bright yellow, so you really can't miss it in the box. And it has obviously the full story of Booker No telling how much of a storyteller his dad was. So if you like history like I do, these are always pretty fun to read. All right, let's dive into the last batch of Booker's 2024. Here we go. All right, so this batch has already that dusty peanut note. It's those peanuts you get at the the baseball games, and you crack open that bag, and then the peanut shell before you crack into them has like that film, that dusty film to it. Very basic Bookers here, very vanilla, very caramel. Nothing jumping out here that's different. That makes me say, wow, this could be something different. All right, let's give it a try. Ooh, that thing came in hot. 127.8 proof. Couldn't eat another sip of that one. All right, so not as peanut forward on the palate. This actually comes off very sweet. A lot of vanilla extract, a lot of those. I mean, there is the peanuttiness there that you're used to with Booker's. But man, this has a really nice viscosity. This is probably one of the more thicker and richer batches of bourbon I think I've had in 2024. Wow, the sweetness of this one immediately hits you. This is actually really nice. I thought based off the nose, this was gonna be kind of a clunker, but man, the palate is just exploding on the palate here. So this one's nice. This isn't like, this to me is coming off like a little bit of an older bourbon here. So obviously we know that the 7 years, 2 months, and 29 days, that's the youngest, bourbon in the blend. But there could be some older whiskey in here. I think that there is a nice rounded profile to this. It's sweet, it's a little bit oaky, it's got the proof point to it. This is like the perfect, so for those of you out there that love those really peanut heavy Booker's profiles, and those of you that like more of the sweeter Booker's profiles, this is a nice kind of meet in the middle type of profile here. You have the peanuttiness on one side, but you have this ultra sweetness on the other side too. This is a really, really nice batch. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of a blind, this versus Mighty Fine batch, because I really enjoyed that batch, but this one I think is actually a little bit richer. This is good. It's darker, it's not as youthful as some of the other Booker's batches. There's something about this batch, man. This is good. If you're a Booker's fan, I'm not gonna do the crazy final breakdown of all this one. You guys kind of know the deal on this, $100. It's kind of limited, but there's a lot of these out there usually. However, if you're a Booker's fan, this one is really nice. Like I said, it veers more towards sweetness. This is really good. All right, I'm gonna take a little bit of a break, then we're gonna dive in to the Dixon Deadman Gem of Kentucky. All right, I took a little bit of a 10 to 15 minute break just to kind of clean the palate out. So next we have the Gem of Kentucky from Dixon Deadman, which is touted as being a whiskey that's different from any other bourbon on the market. How so? Gem of Kentucky was chosen from single barrels within 2 XO stocks, and Dixon Deadman chose a high rye bourbon with a 35% rye mash bill. Now, as part of the double barreling process, the whiskey spends time anywhere from 6 to 12 months additional in new charred oak barrels with a char 3 and char 4 toast level. All right, so let's give this a pour. This sucker's dark. That is a nice dark whiskey right there. Look at that. Now, the brand describes some barrels as offering up more dessert-driven aromas, including chocolate, cinnamon, toasted marshmallows. Other barrels tilt towards savory with a bit of red fruit and spice. Now, Dixon also wanted his bourbon in this black bottle, which I think is really sleek and kind of cool looking, because he didn't want it to look like any other whiskey bottle on the shelf. Something more modern, sleek, elegant. So this is the single barrel number 22. It's 108 proof and priced most expensive 2XO we've seen yet at about 200 bucks. Now, you talk about dark, rich. This one is leaning a little bit more towards savory for me. A little bit of red fruit here, a little bit of spice. I think that 35% mash bill is coming through. But I am getting a little bit of that chocolate note too. All right, let's give this one a try. Here we go. So far, this is the best 2XO I've had. The other 2XOs have been pretty good, but the texture of this bourbon is extremely just rich. It's dense. It kind of coats the tongue. That's what you want. At least that's what I love in a really good bourbon. So this is really nice so far. Man, there's something very sweet and decadent about this. I think the marshmallow note is absolutely spot on. You get a lot of marshmallow, you get some of that oak char, there's a slight smokiness to it. That savory rye quality that it has, I think balances everything out really, really nicely. But again, I can't get over the texture of this whiskey. It's just so thick and rich and dense, and I'm absolutely digging this. Try this one again. I am getting chocolate here, but I think I'm also getting a little bit of a fruit characteristic too. It's this one. I mean, I don't know if all the other barrels are like this. This is the thing. So I did ask Dixon a little bit about the release, and he did tell me that the bottles, or the barrels I should say, in the 20s and in the low 30s ended up being some of his favorites. So being single barrels, these are gonna probably fluctuate pretty greatly, you know, especially when you read all the information that some are savory, some are fruity, some are chocolatey, some are marshmallowy. I feel like this one has a little bit of all of that. I don't think it's leaning as much chocolatey as it did when I first tried it. This is easily, I think, the best 2XO that I've tried, you know, from the entire lineup. This one is really, really good. The issue with the Gem of Kentucky that it's gonna have, even though it's a really good bourbon, is that there's just so many good, affordable, double oaked, you know, whiskeys out there. Man, the more I go to this, the more like marshmallow, cinnamon. Now the chocolatiness is starting to come out a little bit more. It's dense, it's dark, it's rich. Easily the best 2XO. So, you know what? Let me do a quick final breakdown on this bottle only. All right, 2XO Gem of Kentucky, $200 is the price point. Secondary market value, I haven't seen these yet, but if word starts going around, I could see these starting to get marked up. Availability on this is gonna be limited. Value on this is gonna be below average. I would put this up right against the 4-Gate Kelvin 60, which is a double oaked, you know, bourbon that's, I think, could be the same mash bill as the Gem of Kentucky. I think this has a little bit more of a double oaked punch on it as far as the Gem of Kentucky versus the Kelvin 60. Might have to do a double base to figure that out. The most I pay here, I think, is going to be the $200 price point, especially with the fluctuating flavor profiles across each single barrel. As far as alternatives, I mean, it's all over the map, guys. You have so many different, you could start at Woodford Double Oaked, go to Peerless Double Oaked, you have a Penelope Toasted, you have, even though it's a rye, you have Sagamore double oak, because I think the Sagamore double oak would actually be a good alternative as well, because it is a rye technically, and this is a 35% rye, so you might get some of those savory notes as well. Again, the 4-gate Kelvin 60, but that's kind of at the top tier. Again, another bottle that's about 200 bucks to go against this. But there's so many double oaked / toasted variants out there if you don't want to spend the money on this. And lastly, is this a skip? Is it a try before you buy? Is it a buy, or is it a buy and back it up? As far as this bottle goes, this barrel 22, I would say buy this one. But if you can't try this one, you know, beforehand, and there's other barrels available, I would say try before you buy. Obviously, I haven't tried every barrel, and I feel like these are going to fluctuate a lot as you go from bottle to bottle, barrel to barrel. So, I mean, who knows what that variation is. However, as far as 2XO goes, this is probably the best bottle I've had from 2XO and Dixon Deadman. He's a hell of a blender, obviously, but if you're a fan of his stuff, you know, if you were a fan of his stuff at Kentucky Owl, I think you're gonna love this as well. It's got the same just type of balance that Dixon blends for. However, if you haven't had any of his stuff, and like I said, these are, you know, changing a lot from single barrel to single barrel, this is probably gonna be a try before you buy if you can. All right, guys, well, thanks for watching this Double Dip Wednesdays. We tried the last Bookers of 2023, the Storyteller batch, and the 2XO Gem of Kentucky, Dixon Deadman's latest entry into his 2XO series. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, find me on Instagram. Let me know if you've had these yet, what you think about them. Have you tried any of the other barrels of Gem of Kentucky, other than the 22 like I had? Let me know what you think. I feel like this could be a really good release for some, but for some other folks, this could be a little bit too much to spend on that one. Bookers, if you're a fan of Bookers this year, this might be the batch. I have to kind of taste test that. So thanks for watching, guys. And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. Cheers, and I'll see you next time right here on The Master and Drum. Cheers, guys.